So not only did you want to know how to attract an INTJ, now you're telling me that you want to know how to tell if an INTJ is interested in you or not. Did I get that right? Who do I look like? That matchmaking lady from Mulan? Well, obviously I can't be the matchmaking lady, because that's my auntie. I'll tell you what you want to hear. How to tell if an INTJ is interested. But I'm not doing it for you, the potential INTJ suitor. No. I'm doing this for the INTJ. Because there's a lot of INTJs out there that I know will be great in relationships. And the next thing I'm going to say is very true to most INTJs out there. We're not going to make the first move. So all you INTJs out there, I'm doing this for you. Before I begin this video, there are a few things that we need to align on so that this entire video makes sense. The first thing is that cognitive functions will be brought up in this video. And if you're in a Myers-Briggs, you have to understand cognitive functions because the first 4 letters that anyone is introduced to is how you spot a type in the wild. However, cognitive functions is going to tell you why a person does the thing that they do. It essentially tells you how we operate. And if you're not aware of INTJ cognitive functions, I made a short video explaining all the cognitive functions and how they engage with each other. I'll link that in the description below. The second thing that I want to address is that the INTJ is going to analyze you. We're going to analyze you like a hawk. The INTJ is going to be the world's greatest detective. We're going to figure out everything about you. And most of the time, you're not even going to be aware that we're doing it. I'm not going to go into details as to how and when we collect our information because first, it sounds stalkerish. It sounds like we're the main character from the Netflix series You. And secondly, I feel like I can speak for most INTJs is that we don't want you guys to know this. So I'm not going to go over that. You can ask politely in the comments and maybe a wild INTJ will explain. Lastly, this video is going to be broken down to 3 different sections. These 3 sections are how I believe to be the best way to categorize how an INTJ acts whenever they're interested in someone. The sections in order is going to be proximity, consistency, and vulnerability. I'll explain more about each section later on in this video. So let's begin. Section 1. Proximity. Proximity in this context is an INTJ finding a reason to be around you. And I personally believe that proximity is the fun part for an INTJ because this is when we become a little out of character. This is the part where we become a little bit more devious and outside of the authenticity that we hope to achieve at most points of our lives. And after writing this video, INTJs are that nerdy teenagers in that teen drama who doesn't really understand how to engage with society, but just somehow gets in a relationship. Just keep watching because you're going to see it too. INTJs will make encountering each other or being around each other seem as if it's completely random, as if by God, fate, or whatever, we just happen to be in the same area where we're going to engage with each other. So most of the time, it's not a meet cute. It's been planned. For example, oh, you like seeing live performances? Well, I happen to have an extra ticket because my buddy backed out last minute. Do you want to go? Now I have to go buy tickets. I hope they're not expensive. Oh, you like Korean barbecue? I'm actually going to this Korean barbecue place this weekend. Maybe you want to join. I could pick you up. Am I trying too hard? Should I invite other people? Oh, you have an hour to kill before the next class? I actually forgot the book that I need to study from at home, so I have free time. You want to hang out? I hope he doesn't look in my bag because the book's right there. Those are easy examples of proximity when it comes down to a small setting or a one-on-one setting. Now let's look at it from a perspective of having more people around, being at an event or at a social gathering. When it comes down to go to an event or a social gathering, it's not uncommon for an INTJ not to go. We have baby extroverted sensing as our 4th cognitive function slot, so when it comes down to engaging with other people or engaging with reality, it's not a priority to us. But when the INTJ finds out that you're going to be at a party that we're also invited to, we'll reluctantly get off our chair, put on some pants, maybe shower, make ourselves look a little presentable, and pep talk Papa introverted intuition and Mama extroverted thinking into believing that going to the party is exactly what we want to do. Come on, John, she'll be at the party too. One day she might be your wife, and if she's your wife, you'll never have to do this again. Just one night for the rest of your life, John. One night for the rest of your life. One of the things that I find personally funny when it comes down to an INTJ being at a social gathering with one of their crush is that 90% of the time, we're just going to ignore you. There's no way in hell that an INTJ is openly going to talk to you if there's other people around that might potentially see that we're interested in you. INTJs already don't like attention. We especially don't like attention when it comes down to our feelings or anything that has to do with introverted feeling. So when an INTJ gets there, we'll make a round and talk to the people that we need to talk to. And then once the party quiets down a little, and then everyone's in their own little group, and then we believe that there's not going to be people that focuses on our conversation, then yeah, we'll have that conversation. We're not ignoring you because we don't want to talk to you. It's because INTJs are shy. And yes, INTJs do get shy when it comes down to introverted feeling and extroverted sense. And I'm aware that most people, whenever they're around their crush, they enjoy the butterfly feeling because it makes them feel happy. It makes them feel whatever feeling that they want. But for an INTJ or for myself personally, I want that feeling to stop. It makes me cringe knowing that I can feel that way or knowing that someone else can make me feel that way. Can we just be in a relationship already so I don't have to feel this emotion? It feels weird. So an INTJ won't talk to our crush immediately when we arrive to a party. But We're going to talk a little bit louder when you're hearing distant. We'll be funnier than usual when you're hearing distance. We're going to come up with a reason for you to stop your conversation and stare at us, even though we're not having the same discussion when you're hearing distant. And being as shy as we are, we're going to avoid eye contact with you, even though we like it. And if you're in a situation where you and the INTJ make eye contact and it's a long, deep eye contact where you guys are like, oh, hey, this is longer than usual. You're already in, baby. It's time for you to make your move. Stop this video right now and go text or talk to the INTJ. Go. Shoo. The key point of this section is that the INTJ wants to play it cool and not make it seem as if we want to hang out with you, or for other people to notice that we want to hang out with you. To summarize proximity in a single sentence, the INTJ will find a reason to hang out. But even after I went over proximity, it's not very clear, is it? You might be asking yourself,
but John, isn't that what normal friends do?
And that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked. What makes this different from a platonic relationship is the combination of proximity and our next section, consistency. Section 2. Consistency. Consistency in this video is the same dictionary definition as the word consistent. It's easier to notice interest in this section than the previous section of proximity, but the next section, vulnerability, will be the easiest out of all three. INTJ has mama extroverted thinking in our second slot, which means that we will show that we care about someone by making their life as easy as possible or taking care of them. So it's not uncommon for an INTJ to go out of our way when we deal with people that we care about. It could be something as simple as giving someone a compliment or helping someone fix their flat tire. The biggest difference when it comes down to a platonic relationship and a romantic relationship is consistency. Here are a few examples. Example 1, let's talk about compliments. INTJs don't provide compliments unless we mean it, because it goes against our core value of being authentic. And the compliments that INTJs typically provide are very specific to that person that we notice that we don't see in most other people. So if there's a quality of someone that stands out, mama extroverted thinking would want that person to know. And when it comes down to INTJ compliments, they're provided once in a blue moon. And it's not because people are limited to only one trait that stands out. It's because the INTJ isn't focusing on that person to notice all the other attributes that the person has to make them stand out. So if you're the person that has our affection, you're the person that has our attention, and you're the person that we're gonna notice a lot about. And compliments for an INTJ can range from our adoration of you engaging with people in public settings, all the way to how much we enjoy seeing your dimples show up whenever you laugh. So if you're a person that consistently receives compliments from INTJ within a certain time span, that means you have our attention. And that's something that most people never get. The second example is that we ask you questions out of context. I feel like everyone that watches my video already knows that INTJ asks lots of questions. And we ask lots of questions because we need clarity. And the difference between the way we ask questions with someone that's platonic as opposed to someone that's romantic is the type of questions that we ask, when we ask it, and how we ask those questions. INTJs are naturally Socratic. We're going to ask questions to get to the root. But when it comes down to questions, we typically only ask them whenever it pertains to the topic that we're discussing. And if we think of another question later, we'll just text that person, but that question will still have to do with that topic that we were discussing. But if an INTJ asks you a question that seems to be out of the blue, that has nothing to do with the topic that you were discussing, and seems a little bit specific to yourself only, it still technically means that we need clarity.
But clarity on what?
You might be asking. And that's another great question. Good job. What reason would an INTJ have to ask you about your favorite color when none of your discussions previously had anything to do with colors? What value does it provide to INTJ if we ask about your favorite musician when the conversation about music ended like 2 or 3 days ago? If you already answered the question in the original text that the INTJ sent, why would they continue the conversation by asking you more questions? The answer is simple. We're thinking about you. But I do want to make it clear that asking random questions is something that's normal for an INTJ to do with people that we care about, because there might be a reason for it that the INTJ won't tell you about. What should stick out to you personally is how often we do it specifically to you. INTJs, we're typically out in la la land. We don't have time to think about anyone else. But for some odd reason, within a certain time span, the INTJ is asking you a lot of questions that seem a little bit personal. It's a little odd, isn't it? The last thing that I want to add to this section is the consistency at which we respond to your messages. So if INTJ respond at a certain cadence, that either means the INTJ has no plans that they're working on at this point, or the INTJ is into you. Cadence is one of those interesting things too, because it differs from INTJ to INTJ. So you personally have to figure out what is a normal cadence for the person you're talking to and what's out of the norm. The final example that I want to provide in this section is after you and the INTJ have hung out a few times and have built a certain level of comfort. Example number 3 is when the INTJ openly takes care of you. Again, mom extrovert thinking shows that we care by making your life as comfortable as possible. If you're at an event and there's not enough chairs, you're either going to take the INTJ's chair or the INTJ will search for a chair for you to sit on. At the end of the day, you're going to be the one sitting on the more comfortable chair. If you're out eating with an INTJ, we're going to make sure you have the last bite. And we're going to sell it by saying, oh, we're already full. We can't take another bite, which is a lie. We just want to make sure that you have the best and last bite. When you're in a group setting and there's something that you want to say, but people keep talking over you, the INTJ will make sure that you get your opportunity to say what's on your mind. Those are small gestures that most people don't notice. Now let's look at the more outwardly tangible gestures. If you mentioned to INTJ that you want to read more books this year, the INTJ will compile a list for you from the bestsellers and all the books that we believe that you might enjoy reading, because we want you to achieve your goal. If you mentioned that your windshield wipers aren't working when it rains, the INTJ will buy windshield wipers and replace it for you. If not that, they'll make sure that your car goes in the shop and that the problem is fixed. If you're at a rave or a concert together and you're tired, the INTJ will make sure that you get to a place where you guys are both comfortable so that you can relax. The whole point of this section is that the INTJ will do whatever it takes within our power to make sure you feel comfortable. Don't forget that it has to be consistent, because the INTJ would do this for the people that we care about as well, but after a certain amount of time, we're going to tell them they have to figure that shit out themselves. At this point of the video, you might be thinking to yourself,
I don't think there's any indication that could be more clear than that.
another great observation. Man, you're on a roll today. And it's your lucky day, because the next section is going to go over vulnerability, and it's going to be way more clear when it comes down to INTJ and interests. It's like noticing sunshine on a cloudless day. Let's get into it. The last section of this video is called vulnerability, because you have to be very special to see the side of an INTJ. Don't forget that order of operation matters. You have to pass proximity and consistency in order for you to get to this level. So if you haven't noticed your INTJ doing this, they're either not interested in you or you haven't passed the first two sections yet. And that's your job to figure out where you are in your relationship with the INTJ. Also, make sure you don't rush the INTJ to get to this section, because the more pressure you put on us, the less we're going to engage with you. Don't lose the INTJ for not having patience. Vulnerability is when an INTJ introduces you to anti-introverted feeling and baby extroverted sensing. In a nutshell, this is when the INTJ becomes playful. This is the reason why there's inconsistencies in forms when it comes down to INTJs and relationships. People that dated INTJs talk about how aloof and playful we actually are when we're in relationships. And this is completely different from the stereotype that you read about, that we always have a professional demeanor. This is the easiest way to tell if someone actually dated an INTJ, because we are weird but fun as fuck. And personally, I think I'm hella fun today. I take people on all these adventures and I dance with them whenever we're at a concert. Whenever I'm comfortable around someone, no one else or nothing else exists. It's me and them. Let's start off with the easy examples when it comes down to vulnerability. Example number one is when the INTJ specifically tells you that we're interested. And this could be either vocally or through text. And since it takes a while for an INTJ to fully understand how we feel about a person, you're usually the person that tells us first how you feel, but we will never say it back until we actually truly mean it. And when an INTJ say we're interested in you, that's essentially us giving you the green light. Let's start being romantic. Let's start doing romantic things. And it's really odd being an INTJ, because we have anti-introverted feeling, which means that we actually think about romance. But for some reason, it also makes us want to gag at the exact same time. Example number two, the INTJ becomes more physical around you. INTJs can be easily overstimulated by the external world, especially when it comes down to physical touch. INTJs tend to be those people where you notice they have a bubble around themselves. And when someone passes the bubble, we look uncomfortable as hell. We're not the type of friends that give you big and long hugs. We're also not the type of friends that put our arms around you whenever we have something we want to tell you in secret. We may do those things, but it's more rare than it is normal. And all that changes when we're romantically invested in you. And the easiest analogy that I can provide without going into too much detail is that the INTJ is a cat. There's no way in hell we're gonna allow you to pet us if we're not comfortable around you. And even if we're comfortable around you, you can only pet us until we tell you to stop. At that point, don't touch us anymore. Example number three when it comes down to vulnerability is that the INTJ starts flirting with you. Since INTJs are oblivious to social cues, we don't want to give the impression that we're interested in someone when we're really not. Also, there are INTJs out there that never learn how to flirt, so it comes off creepy. So when INTJ is interested in you, we're going to reciprocate your advances, but in a very INTJ way. And the funny thing is, I can't really pinpoint exactly what that means. I know what it is, I just can't really put it in words. So the way that I am going to describe it in context of this video is that when an INTJ flirts with you, you could tell because of tension and power dynamics. It's going to be very subtle, and it sounds like we're challenging you, but not in a argumentative type of way. It's more along the lines of, oh yeah, you really think you can make me do that? It's going to be very obvious, and you'll notice it when it happens, because it's going to be fun. The final example that I have for this video is that the INTJ will start including you in our plans. Because nothing is simple for an INTJ. When we start inviting you to our plans, that means we're showing you who we really are. INTJs have lots of plans and interests that we don't like to discuss. So when an INTJ consistently invites you to do different things, instead of every Friday night going to board game night, that means we're into you. Not only is the INTJ enjoying your company and wanting to to show who we really are. We need clarity to see whether you can perform in certain situations that you're not comfortable with, whether it's engaging with people you're not aware of, engaging in different social activities, or just being in an area that you normally don't do, such as hiking, swimming, whatever. Because all those examples tie into one thing. Can the INTJ comfortably be ourselves around you? And in this example, I'm also going to group in that the INTJ is going to start showing ourselves to you. It could be something as simple as telling you a childhood story that affected our lives, or something less obvious, such as the INTJ listening to music around you that we love, that there's no way in hell we will listen around other people. Lastly, I feel like you should already know where you stand with the INTJ once you get to this point. You two will probably hang out pretty frequently at this point and develop a level of comfort that the INTJ doesn't have with anyone else. But if you're not aware yet, this is me telling you, yes, the INTJ is interested in you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of this video. And as always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to this channel for more content. I actually had to write the script 3 different times because I either felt as if I wasn't descriptive enough or it didn't do the topic justice. And having anti-introverted feeling, I won't allow myself to put out a video that I'm not proud of, even if it still achieves the same outcome. I feel like I'm doing an INTJ dating series at this point. The previous videos were about INTJs being single. Now I'm going to who the INTJs are gonna like. So stay tuned because your type might be coming up next. Thanks again for watching my video. Bye.